One day when he was walking back from school with Rin, he suddenly realized that a weird magic circle had appeared beneath him. This absolute inbred dipshit decides to push Rin into the circle thinking it would lead her back to the kitchen. But Rin grabs onto this numbskull while they both get transported to an alternate world. Once there, Teichi opens his eyes and finds himself laying in Green Plains. He finds Rin laying in the distance and wakes up before wondering where they were. They check their phones and notice that they ain't getting any signals or internet. They wonder what kind of backwater place doesn't have a mobile network nowadays, and Teichi thinks that they might not even be on Earth. He says that the magical circle that they saw before arriving here wasn't some sort of CGI effect and all this is definitely real. Rin says that it's not possible, but then they hear the voice of a giant monster which looks like a massive black stallion with monstrous horns and eyes. The horse jumps over them, but Teichi grabs Rin and dodges sideways just in time to not get squashed. He tells Rin to run and get away from him as far as possible, because it's better for one to die here instead of both of them, and then rushes forward to taunt the massive beast to get its attention. He calls the big monster a cotton picker and asks if its massive schwang was just for show before making it chase after him. It looks like this is the end for him, but just then an airblade attack comes from the side and hits the monster in the neck. A brown baldy suddenly comes out from nowhere and compliments Teichi on his taunting skills before charging ahead to strike the horse with his sword. The monster fights back by spewing flames from its mouth, but then a black magic-infused arrow flies out of a bush and hits the beast in its leg. After that, an ugly loser walks out of the bush and says that these obsidian horses are really tough and that using a mithril arrow was the right call. Finally, Small Mage finishes the hunt by burning the monster with a flame attack. The group introduces themselves as Barada, Ricolta, and Magellan, and says that they are part of the Adventurers Guild and were hired to hunt these obsidian horses to cull the number of monsters in this area. Seeing all this, Teichi confirms that they are in a fantasy RPG-like world, and they will have to find a way to survive here. Later that night, they all sit down around a campfire and the adventurers ask them where they were from and what they were doing there. They notice that Teichi and Rin are comfortable sharing this information and try to ease them up by saying that they won't abandon them in these dangerous plains and would escort them to the nearest town called Asbyre because helping others is part of their job. They also advise them that traveling without weapons is dangerous, especially in this area as the number of monsters is on the rise, and they have received multiple reports about wagons getting attacked and people disappearing in recent times. With that, they all call it a night, and Barada tells Teichi he can make up with Rin, who seems to be mad at him for telling her to run away without him earlier. They talk about it overnight and ultimately patch up with a fist bump and some off-screen sweaty action. The next morning they arrive at Asbyre and the adventurers tell them that it is part of the Elistane Magic Kingdom, and they use this town as their base of operation. They also give our protagonists some gold and tell them about the Adventurers Guild, because Teichi decided to become an adventurer, as well because that's what an alpha male would do. At the guild they fill their admission forms and read the contract and realize that they can somehow read the language of this world. They note that they have been able to talk to the people of this world as well and understand them properly, so there must be some magic at play. After this, the receptionist says that they will go through a small magical aptitude test and brings out a crystal ball and tells them to place their hand on it, because having magic is a must for anyone looking to become an adventurer. Hearing this, they both feel disappointed because they think they don't have any magic, and Rin says that she will go first and places her hand on the ball. To the receptionist's surprise, the crystal ball shows 4 different colors, and she asks Rin just who she was. She then asks Teichi to do the same, and the crystal ball suddenly cracks when he puts his hand over it, and this makes the receptionist cream her pants, and she runs off to tell the guild master about it. After a few moments, she comes back with the guild master, Gerard, and a famous C-rank adventurer named Mira the Golden Fencer. They introduce themselves to the pair and tell them that they can't register them here, and that Mira will escort them somewhere where they will get the necessary advice, and without it, they can't become adventurers. Teichi asks him if this is some kind of scam where they kidnap them and sell their kidneys, but Mira says that does want his organ but not his kidney. She then takes them to an old shack in the forest near the town, and where they meet this hot mommy with big plots called Lemia. She welcomes them in and learns from Mira that the magic measuring device in the guild broke, so they want her to conduct their test. Lemia gives Teichi and Rin some wooden devices and says that she made them and that they would tell their magical capacity and magical strength values. Magical capacity refers to the amount of magical energy one possesses, and magical strength refers to the quality of said magical energy. After stroking her wood with their hands, Teichi and Rin ask what it should, and Lemia says that their numbers are absolutely out of this world, and from now on they will be her apprentices. At the same time, we see a couple of hooded figures talking to each other in the dark. The beta male Gunnar reports to his alpha male leader and tells him that they managed to successfully sabotage the summoning ritual, but because the caster was too powerful, the spell still got activated. They are sure that some people were summoned from another world, but they don't know where they are now. He further adds that they have cast a wide net and will soon find them, and this makes the leader really happy, and he says that he has high hopes for them. Back at the shack, Lemia reveals that Teichi has a magical capacity of 120,000 and a magical strength of 40,000, while Rin has a magical capacity of 37,000 and a magical strength of 5,000 because she's a woman. She further adds that a high-class human mates and royal mages tend to have a magical capacity of over 10,000 and magical strength of 2,000. So both of their numbers are insanely high and they can easily be considered among the strongest beings in this world. Lemia also says that she's the strongest mage in this kingdom, and even she has a magical capacity of 43,000 and magical strength of 6,000, and Myra's capacity and strength are 3,500 and 3,800 respectively. She then tells them that they possess incredible power, but without training they can end up harming themselves and everyone around them, and that's why she wants them to become her apprentice. Besides that, if they master their powers, they will be well above S-rank adventurers and top royal mages. She then looks at Teichi and says that if he trains properly, he might even be able to wage wars against nations on his own and become a king. And if he does that, he can have all the wealth and women in this world, while showing him her massive plots. Rin notices Teichi's rocket rising in his pocket and tries to make him go blind, while Lemia tells Mira that it will be worthwhile training these Gunners. The next day, Lemia starts the morning by feeding them a massive breakfast and explains the basics of magic. She says that there are two ways of utilizing magic, and those are by casting magical spells and using sorcery. To use magical spells, one must chant special incantations to lend their magical power to the spirits who use it to materialize different spells. On the other hand, a sorcerer makes a master and servant contract with a spirit and makes them do their bidding, which makes it that much stronger than normal magic. She further reveals that there are 4 basic elements including fire, water, earth, and wind. Mages are normally able to use only a single type of element, but in some cases, there are special mages like Mira who can use 2 elements like fire and earth, or herself who can use 3 elements, except earth. She then adds that Rin is an even rarer case who can use all 4 elements. On the other hand, they don't know what elements Teichi can use, but Lemia says that until he finds his spirit to form a contract with, she will focus on training his fundamentals. Ash also tells him that in the past, sorcerers have used light, dark, and time-space magic, and if he masters his powers, he will become the strongest mage in the world. After that, they all move the forest, and Lemia shows Teichi how to focus his magic in his hands to perform physical enhancement. Teichi practices hard to master the technique, and while doing so, he hears a girl's voice telling him good luck. He wonders where it came from, but he seems to be the only one who heard it. Meanwhile, Myra mentors Rin and teaches her the basics of casting spells. She tells her that to cast spells one needs to have a clear imagination. Rin immediately learns to cast a fire spell and then even modifies it to blue flames by imagining burning gas instead of wood. This surprises Mira a lot because that's the first time she has seen such a flame, and she calls Rin a prodigy. Later that afternoon, Rin comes to check up on Teichi and feels quite defeated after doing a lot of hand practice. Seeing him like this, she decides to cheer him up, so Teichi decides to give it another shot and tries to focus his magic in his right hand. While doing so, he hears the same childish voice, giving him some tips on how to do it, and this helps him succeed as his hand starts glowing like a light bulb. He asks Rin if she heard the voice and wonders if it's a ghost or something, which makes Rin spooked. After that, they both walk in to have dinner, and Lemia praises them on their progress. She tells Mira to keep looking after Rin and tells Teichi to work on his left hand next and keep practicing until he can perform a full body enhancement. She says that until they find his attribute, this will be his main way of fighting, which suits him quite well being the Giga-Chad he is. Later that night, Mira walks up to Lemia and asks her about the 2 newcomers. Lemia says that she will train them to the point where they can fight decently in 3 weeks because they should be able to fend for themselves in the upcoming war. She thought that the troubles of the capital won't bother her so far away, but it looks like things are going to get ugly quite soon. After a few weeks, we see Teichi and Rin taking a physical test to see how far they have come. Teichi fights a bunch of fen wolves while Rin cooks up a horde of rabbit monsters. Teichi is now able to control the amount of magical power he puts in his fists, and Rin is now able to cast basic spells without incantations while using multiple elements at once. While they are at it, Lemia and Mira look over them from a cliff and talk about how strong they have grown in such a short amount of time. Just then, they notice the pair facing an obsidian horse, but unlike their first encounter, now they are much stronger and able to take down the beast pretty easily and have it for dinner. Later that night, they all celebrate Teichi and Rin passing the graduation test, and Lemia tells them that they will be moving to Aspire the next day and taking their first job as adventurers. She also tells them that according to her, they are called the Lost Ones, which are people who come here from other worlds. She says that sometimes it's as a result of an accident, and at others they get summoned by a sorcerer capable of using space-time magic. This makes Teichi and Rin really surprised, and they ask her how she knew that, and she says that their abnormal amount of magic and occasional use of new words gave them away, and that's why she decided to take them as her apprentice, so they don't end up getting used by evil people. As for the reason why they were summoned here, it will have to ask the sorcerer himself, but there are only a few sorcerers capable of using time-space magic in the whole kingdom. Teichi says that that's a good thing as it will narrow down the people they will have to search, and says that they can easily track them down, clear any misunderstandings, and go back to their world. Lemia says that it might be possible but wonders if it would play out as easily. After dinner, Teichi sits down with Rin and they talk about everything that has happened since they came to this world. Teichi says that they will work as adventurers, make good money and establish themselves, and then use their influence to find the sorcerer who summoned them here and have them send them back to their world. Rin also feels hopeful, and they both call it a night with some off-screen action. After that, Tassi looks at his white hand and wonders if he really has the power to destroy Rin's massive nations, but then he hears the same voice from before which tells him that they will be able to meet soon, and that she is looking forward to it. Teichi asks her who she was and what she meant by that, but the voice simply ignores him and flies away while laughing like an annoying bit. A couple of weeks later, we see Teichi wake up in his bed after having a dream about the same voice. We find out that they moved to Aspire and registered as adventurers before joining up with a group of adventurers who saved them on their first day. Since then, they have been doing minor E-rank missions and have been slowly growing stronger by learning new things about this world. Rin uses most of her time studying at the library and learns all sorts of things about this world. She learns that this world is called Altia, and the kingdom they are currently in is part of the Western continent and possesses the most advanced magic in the world. With a population of 20 million people, roughly 80% are capable of casting basic magic in this kingdom, and that's why it's considered one of the 3 greatest nations in this world. They also learn that Aspire lies close to the eastern border with the Holy Skatalith Empire and the Guardian Empire, and that's why it has flourished as an important town for trading goods and information. Just then, the waitress comes with their breakfast and gives them a letter from the guild. After reading it, they find out that they have been summoned to the guild by the guild master. They go to see what was up, and the receptionist gives them a special work request to investigate a bar in the slums. Teichi wonders what they could be looking for at Brokey Bar, and the guild master explains that recently they have heard rumors about the stolen goods from the wagons being smuggled into the city for the slums. He tells them that they are to look for any information that would help them catch the culprits, and the reward for the mission is 7 silver with bonuses. Teichi asks if it will be alright for them to take a D-ranked mission, and the guild master says that if they can clear it, it will be promoted to D rank. Besides that, this quest has been failed 2 times already, and if they fail it the 3rd time as well, then the guild will have to pay extra fees for the wrong assessment. Teichi calls the short man stingy, but he says that he's sure of their skills because they are Lemia's apprentices and sends them off. With that, Teichi and Rin go to the slums and decide to take it easy till night when the real shady business takes place. While walking through, Rin goes to buy some Malilla fruit, but the price turns out to be twice as much as last week. She wonders if America's inflation took over this world, but the shopkeeper tells her that the wagons transporting goods have been getting attacked recently and everyone is facing shortage of goods. Later that night, Teichi and Rin notice a carrot getting hauled out of the bar's back door, so they walk inside and ask the bartender for some ale. The bartender says that he doesn't carry such weak drinks, but Teichi tells him to sit using his alpha male heki, and they start talking about the rising prices of goods in the town. Teichi says that they are planning on getting into the business as well and are wondering if they can get some information about how it all worked. The bartender says that it's not a business for amateurs, but Teichi calls him a brokey and puts a bag of coins in front of him, asking if he will open his mouth now. Seeing this, the greedy NPCs in the bar get up and try to loot them, but Teichi and Rin wipe the floor with their worthless rears and make them spill the beans. The goos tell them that they were hired by some crooked guy who asked them to deliver the goods from the wagons that were attacked by monsters. They give no how the person looked as it was too dark, but they promised good money so they went with it. The bartender says that he doesn't want their money, and that it's a normal thing for the bar to sell things brought in by these people, so they should stop digging their nose where it doesn't belong. After this, Teichi and Rin walk out and wonder who this mastermind is. Just then they notice 3 female ninjas following them, so they lure them out and engage in a battle with them. Teichi tries to hold back from sending them all back to the kitchen and ends up knocking one of them down with a heavy punch. Rin also shows that she's not useless and pushes one of them back before letting Teichi put her to sleep with some gender equality as well. After that, they both face the last assassin and ask her if she was ready to surrender, but the first ninja wakes up and throws a smoke bomb and they both escape from the scene, using that leaving their unconscious comrade behind. Teichi says that they ran out there to scare them away from the mission and it looked like they were really trying to assassinate them. This makes Rin surprised and they hand the captured ninja over to the guild and ask the guild master to keep her alive. The next morning, Teichi and Rin meet Mira at the tavern, who's waiting there to congratulate them on getting promoted to D-ranked adventurers. She then tells them that she has a special mission and would like them to form a party with her. She explains that the Malilla fruits in the northern forest are ready to be harvested, so the farmers have put in a request to catch the robbers and protect their yield. The reward for completing the mission is 500 silver, and it will also help the town recover from inflation. After hearing all this, the pair instantly agree and they all get on their way to the northern forest. They arrive at the farm in the afternoon and meet up with the 2 NPC farmers and one shady-looking one named Kasim. While shaking his hand, Teichi feels some gay emotions and holds onto his hand for a while before coming back to his senses. After that, they all walk to the fields to see the Malilla trees and Rin casts a magic sensing spell on her staff to catch any trace of lingering magic in the area. She eventually comes across a signal which shows her that a massive monster is on its way to the fields and they all take their positions to fight it. After some time, we see a massive ogre with some orcs coming out of the forest and facing the group with their weapons. Being the alpha male in the group, he tells Mira to take care of the 3 small fries and tells Rin to provide support, while he takes care of the massive monster himself. It thinks that using level 35 enhancement would be good enough for the job and ends up one-shotting the ogre with a heavy punch to its face. Later that night, Mira sits down with Teichi and Rin and tells them that orcs and ogres ain't normal in this region, so this must be a part of someone's scheme. They decide to lay down a trap for them and show them that they are not to be messed with and call it a day. In the meantime, we see a hooded girl surrounded by a bunch of dead bodies. She uses a spell to suck the life force out of them and says that she is excited to meet the magicians while referring to Teichi and Rin, and then she vanishes away using her invisible cloak. The next morning, we see Gerard opening the assassin's cell and asking her if she has decided to speak up. On the other hand, we see Teichi and the group walking through the farm with Rin using her magic detection spell to locate the robbers. They eventually come across a bunch of footsteps and follow them to find a fire pit that has been recently put out. Rin says that she is detecting the presence of 3 people in the fields up ahead, and they rush forward to catch the 3 robbers red-handed. Teichi, Rin, and Myra step forward and make them surrender, and the 2 NPCs take them to the town guards and turn them over. In the meantime, Kasim thanks Teichi and the others for their help, and Teichi once again holds onto his hand for long. He says that they are really soft, unlike the other farmers, and asks him what his secret was. Kasim says that he's an overseer, so he doesn't use his hands a lot, but Mira adds that the orcs and ogres weren't common in this region, but somehow Kasim knew about them, even though he's just a farmer. After hearing all this, Kasim starts laughing and reveals that he's the one who hired those men to steal the fruits, and also the one who hired the magician to lure monsters into the fields. Teichi asks him why he did that, and he says that he did all this to lure the 3 of them here, because he needs Teichi's strength to achieve his goal and wanted to test it himself. Just then, the invisible rogue lady, Grammy, steps out of her invisibility and surprises Mira from behind. She tells Kasim that he's really quick to run his mouth and says that she's the magician and was acting as Kasim's bodyguard. With that, their battle begins, and Myra rushes forward to clash swords with Grammy and asks her why she didn't attack her when she was invisible. She says that assassinating is for cowards, and it isn't her style because she loves clashing blades and overpowering her opponents with her own strength. They both strike each other multiple times and get in a power struggle, but then Rin decides to be useful, and she shoots a fireball towards Grammy. This makes Grammy jump back and she counters the spell with a wind attack. Rin follows it up by summoning a dust tornado and stuns Grammy for a while to buy some time for Mira to finish her physical enhancement. Grammy strikes through the spell with her sword, but Rin keeps the offense up and attacks her with a water and earth element combined spell. On the other hand, Teichi prepares to fight Kasim and asks him if he is planning on taking him on without any weapons. Kasim says that he would instead have him fight his frost elemental and summons an icy monster beside him. Seeing the beast, Teichi thinks that he can one-shot it with a higher level of physical enhancement, and instead of connecting with it, he simply phases through the elemental. Kasim explains that the beast doesn't have a physical form and can only be defeated with fire magic. But unfortunately for him, he doesn't seem to know how to cast any spells. Teichi tries to attack the monster with his blade, but it doesn't do anything at all. The ice elemental strikes back with some ice magic, and Teichi jumps around to dodge the spells. Kasum then takes out the life energy ball that Grammy created last night and feeds it to the monster, which turns it red and gives it a massive power boost. With that, the red elemental charges forward at an insane speed that knocks Teichi back with such force that it makes him bleed from his mouth. Kasum tells him to come with him nicely like a good boy, or else he will capture the girls and tell them the reality behind the birds and the bees story. In the meantime, we see Mura and Rin struggling against Grammy, who sends Mura back with a heavy punch and strikes Rin down as well. Feeling overwhelmed, the two mages decide to ramp up their power output and say that they are already familiar with facing a powerful mage while remembering Lemia. Grammy asks if they were taking her lightly so far, but Mara says that they are just going back to following their main plan, and with that, she enhances herself to level 40 and rushes forward to attack Grammy. They exchange some strikes, but then Rin charges in with his spell blade and surprises Grammy. Grammy jumps back to dodge the attack, but Mura kicks her back forward, and Rin follows up by converting her staff into a sword and forcing Grammy to block it with her sword. After that, she uses the spell blade in her other hand to strike her, and they burn a good chunk of her HP. After that, Rin casts the Dust Tornado spell and mixes gunpowder in it to make it flammable. After that, she lights the spell up with a fireball and blasts Grammy up. Grammy still manages to block most of the damage with her physical enhancement, but Myra takes this chance to strike her down with her fiery blade and puts an end to their fight. After that, they stand in front of her and tell her to surrender, but Grammy gets up while licking her blood like a pervert and says that she would love to fight them again once her wounds heal, and that she would win the next time. Just then, Kasum speaks up and tells the girls to surrender unless they want to see Teichi get pounded by his red elemental. The girls think about it for a while and feel depressed, while Teichi wonders how it ended up like this, and if he wasn't supposed to have the power to destroy nations. While cursing his weakness, he falls unconscious and hears the same voice from before his dream. They asked him if he wants power, and Teichi says that he wants to be able to bash the stupid-looking guy's face into the ground and make him regret ever messing with him. The voice introduces herself as the wind spirit named Ariel and says that this would be an exception, and as she would be breaking rules, it might feel as painful as death, that if he still wants this power, she will lend it to him. Teichi agrees, and we see him transform into full-on avatar mode as he stands up with a thick, windy aura surrounding him. Kasum makes the red avatar charge at him once again and sends him back flying, but Teichi stands back up and says that tanking that hit felt like a kitten hit him with its paw. The red elemental then launches a flame breath attack towards him, but Teichi unleashes his other Haki and strikes back with a strong wind stream that destroys both the flame attack and the red elemental in one go. Seeing this, Kasum and Grammy start running away. Teichi tries to stop them, but then he feels the pain Ariel told him about and he falls to his knees. Teichi still manages to unleash one last attack before fainting and takes Kasum's right arm out with it, officially making him the most pathetic one-armed anime character. After a few days, we see Teichi wake him up in Lemia's house and wonder how he got there. Just then, Lemia walks in and he asks her the question, but then his stomach starts growling and they both head down to have a meal. Teichi ends up eating like Goku, and Lemia tells him that he had exhausted all of his magic in the last battle and was out for a whole week. She explains that normally people replenish their magic overnight, but if they use up all of it, it can put them in a coma-like state for a longer period of time to recover. She tells him that Mira and Rin brought him here when he didn't wake up after a day, and then asks him for the details of what happened in the Northern Forest. Teichi tells her everything, and she says that Kasum must have used a Crimson Pact on the Frost Elemental. It's a forbidden ritual which uses the life force of beasts and humans, and eating one can bring out an enormous amount of magic far beyond the user's capacity. Teichi says that in that moment he really felt like he was a goner, but then he heard a voice which introduced itself as Ariel and gave him the power to fight back. Hearing this, Lemia becomes really surprised, and she gives us this fine shot of her treasure. She says that now she knows what kind of sorcery Teichi is capable of doing and explains that he's a summoner. Summoners are much like shamans who form a pact with spirits and are granted the rights to perform stronger magics based on their bond. But a key difference between them and summoners is the ability to listen to the spirits. She further adds that in this world, spirits are of the highest order, ranking even higher than dragons, who are superior to humans. As such, humans are unable to see or hear them except for summoners who can command spirits and have them cast spells for them. And because these spells are cast directly by the spirits, they are much stronger than those cast using a medium such as shamans or mages. After learning how his insane raised haki attracted a spirit and made him a summoner, he walks out to get some coffee before meeting up with the girls. He asks the waitress if she knew where they were, but she says that they haven't returned since leaving this morning. Teichi decides to find them himself and walks out, but then he runs into a couple of Discord mods ganging up on a pretty girl. He steps forward and tells them to leave her alone, and the girl uses this chance to free herself and grab Teichi's arm. She acts as if he's her lover and convinces him to play along using her massive plots. One of the Discord mods tries to punch Teichi and tells him to mind his own business, but Teichi dodges back and puts the guy to sleep using a kick to his neck. Seeing this, the other guy freaks out and grabs his buddy, and they go back to their mom's basement. Once they are gone, the girl thanks Teichi for saving her, but he says that she looked like she could handle it herself. He points out that she was able to free herself from their grip and even managed to follow his sudden movements when he stepped back to dodge the attack. Besides that, she didn't seem fazed at all by the fact that he laid a guy down with a single kick. Hearing this, the girl tells him that it's because this is not the first time they have met and mentions that he was quite rough with her on their first meeting. This makes Teichi wonder if she's his sister from Alabama, but then she introduces herself as Anastasia and reveals that she's actually the ninja girl that he knocked out and handed over to the guild. Meanwhile, we see Kasim's boss, who calls himself the Emperor. He praises Kasim for getting all the info he got about Teichi and Rin and says that his arm was a small price to pay for that. He then turns to Grammy and says that she needs some modifications to serve him better and puts his special spell on her hand. He then gives a new side quest to Kasim and tells him that it will just be a small prank and would be a good way for him to feel less salty during the one-arm club. After giving him the mission, we see two girls entering the room, asking the Emperor about the carnival. He says that it's about time they started and puts a document in a pile on the table, and says that this will be Teichi's invitation to the party. Back in the town, Anastasia reveals that she has joined the guild and is now working on solving the case of smuggled goods. She tells Teichi that her investigation led her to this building, and they both raid the building to find the mastermind behind it. They come across various goons and fight their way through them, to eventually make it to the room where Kasim and his boss were sitting earlier. There, Teichi finds the paper left behind by the Emperor, and reading it makes him really worried. On the other hand, we see Mira and Rin enjoying the nightlife while walking through the town's marketplace and eating some sweets. Rin seems worried about Teichi, but Mira reassures her that he's in good care with Lemia and tells her that they should focus on their mission for now. Just then, Inoda is getting followed by someone and wonder if they should lure them somewhere without so many people, but then a hooded kid attacks them from behind with a sword. Rin and Mira jump away and tell everyone to get out of there before facing the assassin. Mira charges her sword up and rushes forward to clash their swords while Rin water attack at the boy to clean his stinky face. After that, she prepares a wind tornado spell, but some magicians attack her from the rooftop. Rin cancels her spell and jumps close to Mira to cast a defensive barrier, and they realize that it's a 4 versus 2 battle. But then they hear Grammy's voice from somewhere, who comes out of invisibility and takes Mira down with a surprise attack to her stomach. After that, she picks her up and runs away and tells Rin that it's not her style, but the boss asked for her, so she has no choice. Rin tries to go after her, but the goons keep her busy and Grammy gets out of there. In the meantime, we see Teichi and Anastasia walking through a tunnel made by earth magic and reveal that the paper they found in the building told them that there was a horde of 3,000 goblins enhanced with crimson packs hiding somewhere here under Aspire.